So Tennessee's won two massive football games at Neyland Stadium over two rivals the last couple of weeks. How does that impact recruiting for the 25 class trying to finish it off and 26s and beyond? That and so much more. It's your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. Appreciate you for being here and making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Every dayers, today is your show in segments a little bit in 2 and segments 3. We'll get into your questions, comments, and concerns on this Tennessee football team, a part of the Mailbag edition of the show every Tuesday right here on Locked On Vols. Here in a moment, going to catch up with my colleague, Austin Price, talk a little recruiting, Tennessee football recruiting, and what has transpired since the big weekends here on Neyland Stadium for the class of 2025 and beyond. So that is your show rundown. Couldn't do this show without our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. You can place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to go ahead and get started today. So, got a fun show coming up. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Austin Price of Volquest.com on the latest with Tennessee football recruiting. Brandon Anderson jumped in the boat on Sunday afternoon, a guy that Tennessee coveted highly. And what is Tennessee getting in Anderson? And then, of course, when you look at the 26 class altogether, of course, you started off really strong with the quarterback there. It's starting to come together. Not many in the class, but a great start.
Yeah, Anderson's, a guard likely down the road. I think he has enough versatility, he has enough length that, like, if they needed him to play tackle or something, he probably could. But I think most people project him to play interior offensive line, as he continues to progress as an offensive lineman. But one that has, Georgia, Bama, Auburn, like a lot of these big-time programs have been working him the last several months. But Tennessee did the best job of working him and, pulled the trigger on Sunday morning after telling the coaching staff on Saturday night after the game.
How big of a lift, how big of a boost is environments like Saturday night against Alabama, environments like Tennessee's win over Florida? I mean, the last 2 weeks at Neyland Stadium have been massive. And I feel like, in talking with recruits over the years, they referenced that 2022 season so much about beating Bama, beating Florida. It feels like it kind of it has a lasting effect, right?
It sure doesn't hurt. It absolutely can leave an indelible impression on kids. And, you hear, Tennessee, recruits talking about it and the cigar smoke and the scene in the locker room and being on the field and how loud it was. And whether it be last week with the checkering or the orange out this past week, that stuff sticks with kids, especially when they go to other places. If those places aren't in the same stratosphere as Tennessee, it just draws a spotlight on it. And you're like, whoa, like this is just not the same as it was at Tennessee. And I do wonder, like, when Isaiah Campbell, if he ends up taking that North Carolina visit, is he going to go, man, this is like a church service compared to what it was like at Tennessee? Like, that's where I think that, like, it really can help Tennessee quite a bit. It's when you start comparing places when you've been to Tennessee when Neyland is at its best.
You brought up Isaiah Campbell there, of course, formerly in the Clemson class, really highly rated defensive lineman. Tennessee had 4 official visitors. He was one of them. Yeah. How did things go with Campbell? And then Jaden Harmon shut things down. I think that's big because Tennessee's linebacker commit was, Tennessee getting the flip from Alabama, but Alabama never went away. And then he was at the game, taking an OV, saw that Tennessee beat Alabama, and then decided to shut things down.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was big to get him to go ahead and verbally say, I'm done. I'm not taking any more visits. Tennessee's where I want to be. This solidified everything. It backed up everything that I knew when I, flipped from Alabama to Tennessee. And then Isaiah Campbell, again, another kid that, Tennessee's been working for a while. Every time they would come close to getting him to come over for a visit, Clemson would shut it down. Finally, he just had enough. I'm going to decommit from Clemson and go take a visit to Tennessee. North Carolina is supposed to get him on campus here in a few weeks. We'll see if that happens. But he is a North Carolina kid. And so, could you conceivably say him just staying home? Yeah, you could. But I think at that point, it's just solely picking North Carolina based off of location, not off of any type of football success or thought process. And with Mac Brown, who knows what happens there? And he almost resigned after the loss to Old Dominion. Was it Old Dominion or James Madison? Whoever it was,
James Madison.
James Madison, a team that was far inferior to North Carolina, but not on the field. This year they were not inferior. And so, does he make it past the season? Does he want to continue to do this? A lot of people, a lot of chatter out there says he was going to coach out the rest of the year and then head into retirement.
Let's go to North Carolina for a couple more prospects in the class of 26. Rodney Dunham, Myers Park, he was on campus. Of course, Tony Vitello wants him on the diamond as well. High priority for Tennessee at the edge position. Then, of course, Leo Delaney, teammates of a current 2025 Tennessee offensive tackle that's pretty good. What's the latest in those two guys? And, of course, some other headliners for 26 right now that aren't committed.
Yeah, I mean, the state of North Carolina is really, really important. I mean, that's why you had Leo Delaney here, Rodney Dunham here, Smoke Matthews, all here. And so, with Dunham, I mean, he can play both sports. I mean, he's where will he get drafted in baseball? I think that's a question if you're recruiting him as a football team. I mean, you put a bunch of time and effort into a kid, and then he ends up, heading to play baseball, and it's like, oh, daggone, we wasted a bunch of time there. So, where's he at in the process? Where does he want to play baseball, or does he really want to play football? And maybe, baseball is a secondary sport for him at the next level. I think that goes a long way into determining what he wants to do and how teams recruit him. Leo Delaney, obviously going to have David Sanders in his ear. I think that helps. He's been over here several times. This is, old hat for him. And then Smoke Matthews, I think Tennessee's heavily involved there for the corner. From over there in Charlotte. And I think Tennessee's very much in play. If not number one, they're one of the top 2 or 3 schools for Smoke Matthews.
You referenced that North Carolina and James Madison game. It got me thinking, because that was the Oklahoma week, and Grant and I were listening to it. 70-50 was that final score, in case anybody forgot. Out the door, AP. Tell me a little bit about what's next for Tennessee recruiting. You spent a month away from the friendly confines. You come back at 2 great environments. Now you got an off week. Come back, you got Kentucky, you got Mississippi State. Then you're back. You're on the road. You're back for one game, and of course that's kind of the stretch at the end of the regular season. Who are some names we should be watching to come back for, and what should we expect here this final stretch of the regular season in terms of recruiting?
Well, Faison Brandon will be back for the Kentucky game, and we'll see if Tennessee can get any of these other 25s here for the Kentucky game. It's dark mode game, and realistically, it's Tennessee's last time to have recruits for an SEC game, because the Mississippi State game, they'll have to self-impose from the Pruitt staff. They have to give away one SEC game a year. That's Mississippi State. Next year it'll be Vanderbilt, because it's on Thanksgiving every other year, and so it's just easy to give that one away. But right now, if you're Tennessee, you want to capitalize. You want to get as many players here as you can, for that game against Kentucky. And let's face it, we talk about the environments, the dark mode game, the blackout, all that will play really, really well with the recruits as well.
Hey, Locked On Vol fans, it is now time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we pulled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can directly support the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go specifically to that player that you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. You even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part about it, it is risk-free. If the athlete's transfer doesn't deliver on the content, you get your money back. So this week, I am supporting Brew McCoy. I just pitched in $100. I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Brew McCoy the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets up the team for success. Brew McCoy, he had 8 receptions, 80 yards, 6 receptions, 80 yards, targeted 11 times in that football game against Alabama. Obviously, the game plan was to hit Brew McCoy on the slant, and he came through in a big way. Don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, put in the referral code Locked On when you enter. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Again, Roy, support the players, change the game. That is Roy. And I want to get back to telling you about our friends over at Team Ticker. If you look over to my left or my right, the mirror's flipped here. The camera's flipped. My right shoulder up on the top shelf, you see my little team ticker up there. It's at this angle, it's kind of hard to read, but it's a digital sign, big power T, and it's got stuff going on like the schedule, the top 25, stats. It is really, really cool, and it makes my office, makes my studio, makes my man cave even that much more, Tennessee friendly. Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign for all college fans. As you can see, it's a 1 by 2.5 foot wall sign featuring the Power T. That is cool-looking retro LED display. The display is updated daily, fresh content. I just turned it on a moment ago, had the app on my phone. It updated, it took like 1 minute, and it's got a fresh batch of top 25 stats for Dylan Sampson, stats for Nico Iamaleava, the schedule, the results, all that and more. Super fun way to stay connected to the Tennessee Volunteer sports. Combination of design, function gives you entertaining, creative ways to display your team pride while also providing you a unique connection to your favorite team. Whether it's football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, soccer, softball, Team Ticker has got you covered. Using the control content I talked about on that app section on the mobile app allows you to control the sports that you see from the remote control function, allows you to jump directly to any section of content. Each sign is officially licensed, meeting high-quality standards, and is assembled by hand in the U.S. Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign, so go to teamticker.com, use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive $50 off your Team Ticker purchase. Again, teamticker.com, promo code LOCKEDON to receive $50 off your Team Ticker purchase. Be the best Tennessee fan you can be. Get that Power T LED display, all that and more at teamticker.com, referral code LOCKEDON. All right, guys, a couple of things in here before we get into our mailbag questions, and good stuff there from Austin Price. Really appreciate him stopping by the show, as he always does frequently, and give us an update on Tennessee recruiting. Tennessee's running back Dylan Sampson named SEC Player of the Week. 2 touchdowns, 139 yards rushing, well-deserved. And Cooper Mays named SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. Somebody's got to block for that guy, right? And Tennessee, of course, had over 400 yards of total offense in that football game. Let's see here, 408 yards of total offense, pretty decent overall in this football game. And let's see here, 3rd down, 6 of 14. Not a horrible mark, but congratulations to Cooper Mays blocking, and of course Dylan Sampson running the football, SEC Weekly Honors. Before we get into some of your questions, I found this interesting. I saw a lot of hoopla, and I saw some of it on social media, and I saw some of this on the General's Quarters. Chris Stewart, who is the play-by-play voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide of the Crimson Tide radio network. Apparently, of course, I wasn't listening to the Alabama call during the game, and when I went back and did the rewatch, I was watching what was on television like you guys were at home if you weren't in attendance. Apparently, Chris Stewart there, I would assume before, I don't know exactly when it was, I would assume it was sometime late in the ball game on a 3rd down. Maybe it was that 4th and 22. Oh, it was 2nd and 16. Here we go. And he has this comment here. He says, quote, 2nd and 16 is not what you're looking for, okay? Especially with the noise level being what it is here. You've got 100,000 plus, and they also pipe in crowd noise as well. Obviously, Tennessee fans took exception to that. You've seen nothing but positive reviews. I've talked about it here on Monday's show about how the environment, how the scene was just incredible against Alabama. It was really good against Florida. It was better against Alabama. I talked about on yesterday's show how the Neyland effect really affected Alabama after that Gaston Moore interception and really 2 sudden changes on Nico's interception and Gaston Moore's interception. The defense stood up, aided by the crowd that didn't get disinterested, didn't get annoyed. They were loud and had forced 2 3-and-outs after those interceptions, negative 15 yards on 6 plays. I've been talking about the Neyland effect this week and how great it was at Neyland Stadium that night. Well, my buddy Grant Ramey, co-worker over at Volquest.com, he reached out Monday morning to a spokesperson over at Tennessee, and that spokesperson at Tennessee confirmed that is not the case. The only noise coming through the speakers during home football games is music being played between the plays or the PA announcer, which is Jeff Jarnigan. It's 3rd down. Yeah, that guy. So that is not the case. Tennessee fans obviously were, taking their rounds and taking their shots on social media because that is just factually not a correct statement. I know we all get caught up, and I guess we all think some things at the point in time, but I mean that is something bold. And I don't know Chris Stewart on on a personal level, I actually rode the elevator down from the press box to the playing surface Saturday night, and I talked to him a little bit in the right after the game, and he was nice as always every time I've spoken to him. But that was not something very smart to say, in my opinion. Maybe he was misinformed. Maybe he truly believed that, but that was not the case. That was 100,000 strong Tennessee fans just going berserk. And the noise, the crowd, the environment. I mean, it's what college football is all about. It's beautiful. It's fun. And you don't want to take anything away from that. So when that clip was making its round around social media and Tennessee fans got a hold of it, Grant Ramey reached out to the University of Tennessee. Spokesperson confirmed that is not the case. So if you're seeing that clip on social media, and if you believed it, well, don't. That is not true. There was no artificial noisemakers, or there's no crowd noise being pumped into Neyland Stadium. Now, Tennessee practices that way to get ready for road games. In practice, we're talking about practice, y'all. Practice, not in games. Not in games whatsoever. All right, let's get into the mailbag portion of the show. I got a couple here, and we'll answer one or two here in this segment before we hit a reset. I want to go to Tyler here. Twitter Tuesday question. Is Nico more accurate on the run? Maybe it's confirmation bias, but it seems like he hits deep throws better when he's rolling out. It's a really good question, and I actually took the time and I scoured everywhere over Pro Football Focus, which is a heavy analytical site for football, and there's no metric on there that measures completion percentage, accuracy stats, quarterbacks out of the pocket, or quarterbacks rolling out. I'm sure there's something out there. I'm sure there's a paid subscription out there that you can go and get those numbers, but I couldn't find them. I tried to search to give you exactly the stats because I agree with you, man. I've said it for weeks. I think Nico's better rolling out. I think Nico's better getting out of the pocket. However, I will say this, Tyler. Nico's interception the other day was technically out of the pocket. He had literally all day to throw. And then finally he got flushed out of the pocket and he was over there towards the sideline and he forced that bad throw when it was getting hit while he was throwing it. Just a horrendous decision. That was out of the pocket, so that wasn't a good play. But overall, I would agree with you, Tyler. I can't find confirmation on it, again, because I'm not going to pay for some site that I need to answer this one question whenever. I couldn't find it on Pro Football Focus. But I did look. I looked really hard. He seems more comfortable rolling out. Now, his 55-yard dart down the sideline to Dante Thornton, that was a straight sprint out. He got the football, sprinted out to his right, and threw. And boy, that was gorgeous. I mean, that was almost like backyard football, right? It's like you need to play, hut, roll out, just chuck it deep. I mean, it was gorgeous. But Tennessee's called some design rollouts, called a couple bootlegs, called that type of stuff to get him out of the pocket the last couple of weeks. And I think it's made a difference. I think he's looked pretty good. And so I wish I had the numbers on that. But I'm with you, man. I think that he certainly at least looks like it's better out of the pocket. So sorry I couldn't find official confirmation on that, but I'm with you, man. I think that's kind of the case. We'll continue on here with a couple of questions. We'll go to Polly. I know MTSU was courting Tim Banks for their head coaching vacancy last offseason. Any idea how close Banks was to taking that job? Why did he turn it down? Is it going to take the perfect situation to pull Banks away from Knoxville? Or do you think he's likely gone after this season? And if so, who do we promote or hire? Inge? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't know the exact specifics on Tim Banks and the MTSU courtship. There was certain outlets that were actually reporting that he was probably going to take the job, and I don't think that was ever the case. I know that they talked. I know that there were conversations, at least from what I've been told. But I don't think anything was ever, set in stone that he was going off. Clearly, he's not there. He's not the head coach. So I think that there was certain reporting out there that made it seem like it was right at the 1 yard line, and I don't think it ever got that close. I do think that you're in a really, really good position here. Alex Golish, I thought, was in a really, really good position here. You're a part of a winning program. You're a part of a staff that's now proven. You're at the biggest level of college football. You're producing, especially this year. Tim Banks is producing in a massive way. So you can wait. You can be patient. You can wait for what's right for you, and then you can make that leap. And you also have to, check out the jobs that are available, right? I mean, obviously, when you look at USF, Alex Golish believed that there was potential there. Obviously, there's money going in there. They're about to build a brand new stadium. I know that they've got NIL down there, a collective that's pretty strong. It's been formed and everything. And, you look at all those intangibles. And also, for Alex Golish, sure, you're not going to get some of the better athletes in the state because they're going to go to Miami, Florida State, or Florida, but you're right there in a recruiting hotbed. And so I think that there was a lot of upside that Alex Golesh saw in the USF job that made him want to jump at that opportunity. MTSU is not the same situation, no disrespect. I know Derek Mason's there now. MTSU is not in the same situation, in my opinion. Some of those other group of fives are not in the same situation. So I do think Tim Banks is going to be able to be patient, sit, court, talk, and make sure whatever situation is right for him. And there's going to be plenty of suitors this offseason that are going to come calling, right? I mean, let's remind you guys, Tim Banks is not under contract right now. Obviously, Tennessee will re-up with him if he wants to remain here because he's doing a heck of a job. But this is the last year that he's technically under contract for in coaching. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with anything because I think because of the season that he's having right now, there's going to be plenty of people coming to call for him. Plenty of people coming to call for him. So what's that look like? Is it a group of five head coach? Could it be a power four head coach that's kind of at a lower tier right now? I don't know. Tim Banks has got plenty of experience in the Midwest. He's got plenty of experience in the Northeast. Now he's been coaching in the Southeastern Conference for a couple of years, so he's kind of building his resume. I'm intrigued to see kind of what that looks like, but certainly I do think that there's going to have a lot of suitors, and I think it'll be tough for Tennessee to hold on to him this past year or this offseason. I really do, and that's a credit to the job that he's doing. His replacement, you mentioned Inge. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know William Inge was technically co-DC for Washington last year. He's the linebackers coach here this year. I don't know if that's something that, in terms of, elevating. He's the new defensive guy on the staff. I don't believe Rodney Gardner is going to be a defensive coordinator. He has any interest in doing that. Willie Martinez has been a DC in this league before, but I don't know if that's the move for him. I'm talking about internal hires. Mike Eckler would not be a defensive coordinator. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. Would you go out and get an outside hire? Would you promote William Inge? I think in terms of the internal guys on that side of the football, William Inge would make the most sense. But I can't answer that right now. I'm sure there'll be plenty of outside interest if that job were to open up, Holly. Let's get to one more question, and then we'll take a reset. Braden chimes in. Well, first of all, Braden's getting married this weekend, so let's all in unison congratulate Braden. Heck of a job. He asked me on Twitter Tuesday a couple years ago any advice about proposing, and I had recently proposed to my now wife at the time, and so it's kind of a full circle moment, right? Every dayers that we get to celebrate these milestones. So Braden, congratulations to you, man. Hope you have a lifetime of memories and happiness, but that's awesome. So good luck this weekend. Okay. Make it through the ceremony. And I talked to you off the show a little bit, but it's going to be a blur. Things aren't going to go right, but I hope, it's only for a couple hours. And so just as long as you have your bride by your side, you're going to be all right. So congratulations to Braden. His question for Twitter Tuesday, who is currently seen as the player's vocal leader of the football team? That's easy. I think Tennessee's got a lot of leaders, okay? And I think they're not all quiet leaders. A couple of those guys chirp up and everything, but the undisputed emotional vocal leader is Dylan Sampson. And I actually asked him about it in the postgame press conference on Saturday. Hey, you're the vocal leader. You're the guy that, if you watch, I know if you're not in the stadium, it's hard to see because I don't televise this, but when Tennessee's out there for warm-ups, before every game, they huddle up, and Dylan Sampson's in the middle of that huddle, and he is preaching to his team. He's getting them pumped up, fired up. That's Dylan Sampson. I actually asked him about it. I was like, hey, when things aren't going well in the first half offensively, you're the emotional rah-rah leader of this football team. Kind of what's your role? Do you get in guys' face? Do you encourage? And he said, it's just kind of different. I don't need to lead to the same player or to every player the same way. I know how to connect with my guys, and it's just about, the way I encourage this player might be different than the way I encourage this player. I thought it was a really, really good answer. You can check it out. Of course, it was from the post-game press conference. But to answer your question, it is Dylan Sampson. Now, Cooper Mays is a huge leader on this football team. Brew McCoy is a huge leader on this football team. I think Andre Turrentine a leader on this football team. I think Amari Thomas is obviously a leader on this football team. There are more. But in terms of the rah-rah, the vocal, that is Dylan Sampson. That is Dylan Sampson for sure. We got plenty more questions to get into, so stay tuned, you everydayers. This show is for you as we continue on here with the mailbag portion of the show. This is Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's not bad, right? That's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All that and more is at FanDuel.com, and you can download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Safe, secure, super easy to use. And not only do we play FanDuel on Sundays for the NFL, but of course on Saturdays for the college football season. Of course, Tennessee's off this week, so no lines out about Tennessee and ex-opponent, but Tennessee will be taking on Kentucky in 2 weeks. That game will be at Neyland Stadium. It will be a night game. Tennessee will be favored in that football game, and you can put some coin in your pocket by looking at the spreads, the totals, the props, first quarter, first half props, all that and more on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Plus, NFL Sundays, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All that and more over at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, it's where you can make every moment more. FanDuel, it is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we continue on here with this edition of your mailbag portion of the show, Locked On Vols, and we'll work our way to Jay Grass. Hey, Kaner, for Tuesday here, Sampson, 17 touchdowns, is 1 touchdown away from tying the single season's rushing record at 18. It's a cool stat, of course, but I'm wondering how you would compare his impact versus that of Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, Eric Gray, Alvin Kamara, etc. GBO, keep up the good work. So he actually tied the modern era record with 17 touchdowns to tie the all-time record. It's 18 touchdowns. He's got one more. And again, I don't want to have a conversation of what's modern era and what's not. I was talking to my boy Greener. Shout out Greener. I know you're watching. He's what you consider an everydayer. And we both discussed like leather helmets and face masks. Like once you put face mask on, like that should be the end of that. This should be the modern era because it's completely changed the football game, right? You're not wearing leather helmets. You got a face mask now. So I've seen dates of 1939. I've seen dates of 1931. I don't know, to be honest with you. I can do some more research on there. But to answer your question about, his impact versus that of Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Eric Gray, Dylan Sampson's impact's been huge, right? Last year you had a 3-headed monster. And I'm kind of curious. We always talked about last year how Jalen Wright was so good. What would Jalen Wright's stats look like if he was a true RB1? I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Dylan Sampson is RB1. The last couple of weeks, he's leading the SEC in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns and attempts. And remember, in weeks 1 through 3, he barely played. Played a quarter and a half against UTC, played a half against NC State, maybe played a little bit in the third quarter, played a quarter and a half against Kent State. So we were kind of entering that Oklahoma game and that Arkansas game specifically, kind of comparing Dylan Sampson and Jaquindon Jackson. It was like, well, Jaquindon Jackson's here and here and here, but he's played, 11 of the possible 12 quarters, where Dylan Sampson's played like 7.5 of the possible 12 quarters. I guess all that to say is Tennessee's gotten their money's worth with Dylan Sampson the last couple of weeks because they have, 25 attempts, 26 attempts, so on and so forth. He is impacting the game at a bigger rate. I'm curious to know what Jalen Wright would have been like with this type of usage. Jalen Wright, I think, was so effective because he was fresh. If Jalen Wright was getting 20 touches a game, would he have been as effective? I don't know. We can answer that about Dylan Sampson because the answer is yes. We've seen it the last couple of weeks. Jabari Small was a touchdown machine, especially earlier in his career. And I think that's where the similarities are with Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson, don't get me wrong, he has put in the work. I don't have his stats in front of me. I'll do that over the bye week. Don't worry. And I kind of go down and break down, Dylan Sampson game by game. He's got 100 yards in all but one game. And I think that one game against Oklahoma was 93 yards. The dude's putting in the work, but he's also putting in a ton of touchdowns. Look at that. We joke in the press box, call him the vulture, right? There's only one game where he truly vultured a ton of touchdowns. That was Virginia last year when he had 4. It was Jalen Wright going all the way down the field, tapping his helmet, getting tired. Dylan Sampson comes in, catches that little screen pass for the touchdown. It was Jabari Small and Jalen Wright going all the way down the field, tapping the helmet inside the 10. Dylan Sampson comes in, scores from 2 yards. That's really the only game where truly he was a vulture. But the other night, Nico sprints out, throws 55 yards on a dime. Dante Thornton down the sideline, gets it within the 5. Tempo, handed to Dylan Sampson, touchdown. It's like, but Jabari Small, I think, finished his Tennessee career with 24 touchdowns. And Dylan Sampson's already surpassed that. A lot of touchdown scores. Alvin Kamara, I think this is a really interesting kind of debate because I think their skill sets, not just because they both wore number 6, I think their skill sets are very similar. I think Dylan Sampson could be used more in the passing game like Alvin was, but we haven't seen that an awful lot. But I think they can run between the tackles. I think they're patient. I think they have breakaway speed. And Eric Gray, unfortunately, we just didn't get to see enough of him, right? I thought he was solid, but he left before I think he really hit his stride as a college football player. But that's kind of how I would compare those guys. Let's go to Mar. Let's see here. Recruiting-wise, who all was in attendance for the game? I know Brandon Anderson committed this morning, but didn't think he was at the game since he was at last week's game against Florida. Tons of guys were at the game. Let's see here. 4 official visitors. Jaden Harmon shut down his recruitment. He's sold on Tennessee. Isaiah Campbell, former defensive line commit from Clemson, that opened things up. He was here officially for Tennessee. Those were kind of the 2 big ones. And then you had a lot of guys that were, here for the 2026 class and beyond. One guy that I really, really like is Rodney Dunham, Myers Park edge player, top 50 player in the class of 26. He was on campus, and he's right there AP was talking about him in segment 1. He's right there at the top of this list. So those were kind of the headliners. I know I forgot some of them, but AP got you caught up in segment 1. Number 2, I keep seeing tweets saying that the recruits stormed the field after the game, which jump-started the rest of Neyland. Is there any validity to the statement? Yeah, that's what happened. You had the prospects and the recruits that jumped over that wall, and they kind of started the whole thing, and I think that's kind of cool because they're so engaged and they're so passionate about it. Also, I think the Tennessee student section on the other side of the field kind of followed suit afterwards, but yeah, that's how I saw it, and people who were down on the field said that's exactly what was happening. It was an exciting game to watch, and thought the second half gave back some confidence to this fan base of Nico, the ability he continues to grow as a young quarterback despite being shut out in the first half. Coming back and scoring 24 against Bama in the second half is something worth celebrating, in my opinion. Absolutely, I agree. Also, shout out to Jermond for showing up and shutting down Ryan Williams. Go freaking Vols. Well said. Well said. I don't think I could have said it any better. I think I probably tried over the last 2 days to say it better, but I don't think I could have. I'm going to blow through these last couple ones here. I know we're running out of time. Glock Vols, your personal favorite player to watch on this team, play style, heart, effort, whatever it is that makes you like him. Mine's Jacoby Thomas, just homegrown Tullahoma kid that plays his heart out for the Vols. He's been fun to watch for sure. I like watching Jermon McCoy because he is just so good, but I think overall my favorite's Dylan Sampson. That's low-hanging fruit. I know he's doing well, but he plays with so much heart, as you mentioned. He plays with so much toughness. On contact, he keeps his feet moving. A lot of his game is teach tape, and so I really enjoy that. Let's go to Uncle Davy Crockett. Why has Tennessee not used Ethan Davis more? I heard all through spring how good of a connection between him and Nico it was. It seems like he's not getting a good amount of snaps. Yeah, I think it's interesting, man. Miles Kitzelman's their guy. He's going to play the majority of the snaps. Holden stays at their second option, and then there's Ethan Davis, and I think Ethan Davis is clearly the best in space, but I think it's just more the inline stuff, the blocking, the H-back stuff that might be holding Ethan Davis back a little bit. But he got some run last week. Hopefully he gets some more run. Randy says, Heupel has earned a reputation as a quarterback's guru. Do you think we will see Nico play better and get some all-SEC honors next month, or will we have to wait until next season for that? If he just eliminates the turnovers and poor decisions, it would be huge. Yeah, and if he hits a wide open guy down the field, it will be huge. And I think that's coming. I know fans don't want to hear this. I know it's frustrating saying they're close. It's the truth. They're close. But those decisions you mentioned, absolutely. Staring down receivers, throwing into triple coverage when you could have threw it out of bounds, forcing a throw, getting hit. That's got to stop. I thought he grew up a ton in the second half, and you hope that carries over. I think he's going to continue to get better. And who knows? Maybe some of those awards will follow this year. Can we show some extra love to Will Brooks? This is from Kurt. Do you think he has any future at the next level now? I don't. I hope that for him, but I don't see any future at the next level. But as far as love shown to Will Brooks, I think he's Tennessee's best safety right now. It couldn't happen to a better guy. The pick against Alabama, a kid from Birmingham, the shoestring tackle. What a game for Will Brooks. Rob says, since it's the bye week, my question is, can you give us some updates on fall baseball, how they looked, how they shone, who is playing where, who's looking good pitching? Liam Doyle is looking good pitching. Tegan Coons is looking good pitching, a freshman. Nate Snead looked good the other day when I was there. Dean Curley's playing a whole lot of short. Gavin Keelan's playing short and second. You've got Ariel Antiqua playing short and second. Andrew Fisher's played third. Blake Grimmer's played a little all over. think he's a guy to watch. Stone Lawless is a guy that I think you should watch at first base. Alex Perry's having a really good fall. Jay Abernathy, a freshman's having a phenomenal fall. Sorry, I'm up against it. I do apologize, Rob, but that's kind of the basis there. Do you think William Minge on our side had something to do with our defensive doing a great job on Saturday's wins? Of course, William Minge coached with Kalen DeBoer at Washington. I don't think it hurt, but I don't think it was the reason Tennessee was so great defensively, for sure. And then lastly, we'll go to Breyer. Don't know how it's decided or who else I'm forgetting, but Will Brooks, a Burlsworth Trophy finalist. Is that the award for the best safety in the country? I don't know. 1 forced fumble, 2 INTs, an 85-yard pick six, and a game clincher against Alabama. Yeah, I don't know. He needs to keep it up. Certainly, right now he's playing well. And Tennessee, again, I'll say it again, I think he's Tennessee's best safety right now for sure. Went a little overboard. I do apologize. Thank you guys so much for being here on a mailbag edition of the show. Big thanks to Austin Price for stopping by the show. We'll continue talking Tennessee at this point in the season. It's a bye week. Where does Tennessee's offense and defense rank nationally and in the Southeastern Conference? We'll have Josh Ward tomorrow. All that and more right here on Locked On Vols. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you guys as always, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.